What kind of mother walks miles through a storm with a crying baby and no place to go? That was the question echoing in Olivia Winters' mind as the Montana sky ripped open with another crack of thunder. The rain hit her like cold stones. Her shawl was soaked through, her boots sinking into the muddy ruts of the old road. She held her 6-month-old daughter Emma close to her chest, trying to shield her from the freezing downpour, even though Olivia herself could barely stand upright. She was only 22, but the last 3 days had aged her years. 3 days since her husband Thomas had taken their only horse, their savings, and whatever hope she had left. He had left without looking back, leaving her stranded miles from the nearest town with nothing but a hungry baby and a heart so bruised it felt carved out of stone. "Just a little longer, Emma," Olivia whispered, her teeth chattering. "We'll find shelter soon." But the truth was cruel. There was nothing ahead but miles of empty road. The storm was only getting worse, cold rain mixing with her tears until she couldn't tell one from the other. Then she heard it. Hoofbeats. Slow, steady, and getting closer. Her heart lurched with fear. A woman alone with a child was an easy target on these roads. She stepped to the side, keeping her head down, preparing to dart into the trees if she needed to. The horse slowed beside her. "Mom?" The voice was deep, calm, and carried a soft Texas drawl. Olivia forced herself to look up. A tall man sat on a powerful chestnut stallion, rain running off the brim of his hat. His face was partially shadowed, but she saw the strong jaw, the stubble, and eyes steady enough to make the storm seem quieter. "You shouldn't be out in this weather," he said. "I don't have a choice," Olivia answered, barely above a whisper. The cowboy swung down from his saddle in one smooth motion. He was tall, much taller than she expected, and even through the rain she saw the strength in his shoulders and arms. "Name's Preston Reed," he said softly. "You and that baby need shelter." "We're fine," her voice trembled. It wasn't convincing even to herself. Preston tilted his head. Rain poured from his hat brim. "With all due respect, ma'am, you're about as far from fine as a person can get." Right then, Emma let out a sharp wail as if agreeing. Olivia tried to soothe her, but the baby's cries only grew louder. Exhaustion washed over her so hard she swayed on her feet. "My ranch is about 3 miles up this road," Preston continued. "Warm fire, dry clothes, hot food, no strings attached. You can leave at first light." Olivia hesitated. Pride told her no. Emma's shaking little body begged her to say yes. She felt the heat against her neck. A fever, the beginning of something dangerous. Preston stepped closer, but slowly, carefully, as if approaching a frightened deer. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward Emma. There was something in his eyes, something steady, something safe. Olivia nodded. Preston took the baby with surprising gentleness, slipping her carefully inside his long duster coat, where she was instantly shielded from the storm. Then, before Olivia could protest or fall over, he lifted her by the waist and set her on his horse as if she weighed nothing at all. She gasped, gripping the saddle. He handed Emma back to her, then mounted behind them, one arm steadying her while the other took the reins. "Hold on," he murmured. The horse surged forward through the rain. For the first time in days, Olivia felt warmth, the solid strength of Preston Reed behind her, the shelter of his coat around her shoulders, Emma quieting against her chest. The storm began to fade as they reached a wide wooden house tucked against the foothills. Smoke curled from the chimney, warm light glowing behind the windows. Preston brought the horse to a stop and jumped down, lifting Olivia gently to the porch. Under the shelter she blinked hard, overwhelmed by the sudden dryness and warmth. He opened the door. "Mrs. Norwood," he called, "we've got guests in need." A gray-haired woman hurried in, shocked at the sight of Olivia and the baby. "Oh, my stars," she gasped. "Bring them to the fire, Mr. Reed. I'll fetch towels." Quote, Preston guided Olivia to the hearth, the flames crackling and reaching toward her like open arms. Heat wrapped around her aching body. "Mrs. Norwood will help you both," Preston said quietly. "I'll tend to my horse and be back." Before she could thank him, he was gone. Mrs. Norwood returned with towels and clean clothes. "Let's get that little one warm first," she said gently. Emma whimpered as the blankets were removed, her tiny body cold and stiff. "She's got a bit of fever," Mrs. Norwood murmured, "but nothing we can't fix." Olivia felt her heart sink. "Is she going to be all right?" "With rest and warmth, yes." She handed Emma back, now wrapped in fresh flannel. Then she pressed a towel into Olivia's hands. "Now your turn, dear. You're soaked through." Olivia changed into the dry dress they gave her, simple but warm. Mrs. Norwood brushed her damp auburn hair, and for the first time in days, Olivia felt more human than ghost. When Preston returned, cleaned up and dry, he paused when he saw her. Just paused, long enough to make something strange flutter inside her chest. "Mrs. Norwood has supper ready," he said, "if you're hungry." Olivia sat by the fire, Emma asleep in her lap, warm, safe, and fed, and she realized something she hadn't felt since the day Thomas left. She wasn't afraid. Not tonight. Not here. Not with the cowboy who lifted her out of the storm. How could one peaceful morning feel so different from the storm that nearly swallowed her whole? That was the first thought on Olivia's mind when sunlight streamed through the window of the warm ranch bedroom. For the first time in days, there was no thunder, no fear, no endless mud under her feet. Only quiet. Only warmth. Only safety. Emma was already awake, gurgling happily in her cradle, with cheeks pink instead of pale. Relief washed through Olivia so strongly it almost made her weak. She dressed in the clean calico dress Mrs. Norwood had left for her, braided her hair, and held Emma close as she stepped downstairs. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the house. Mrs. Norwood looked up from the stove. "Morning, dear. You look a sight better." "Thanks to you," Olivia said softly, "and Mr. Reed." "He'll be along in a moment. Out checking the herd." Olivia sat, bouncing Emma on her knee. The kitchen felt safe, warm, almost like a place she belonged. But she reminded herself she didn't belong anywhere. Not yet. The back door opened. Preston walked in, brushing dust from his hat. His eyes went straight to Olivia. "Morning." His voice softened when he noticed Emma smiling at him. "Looks like someone's feeling better." "She slept well," Olivia replied. "Grateful. Good." He washed his hands and sat across from her. Mrs. Norwood set a platter of food on the table. Breakfast passed peacefully until Preston gently set down his cup. "Mrs. Winters," he said, "I don't mean to pry, but I need to understand what brought you to that road." Olivia felt her breath catch, the question she had dreaded. She lifted her chin. "My husband left us." Preston's jaw tightened. "He rode off 3 days ago, took our horse, our money, everything." "He left you and a baby out there?" he asked quietly. "Yes." There was a long pause. Preston's hands curled into fists on the table before he forced them to relax. "Do you have family you can go to?" "No." She looked down at Emma. "It's just us." Preston was silent again, but something changed in his expression. Anger on her behalf, and something gentler too. "You're welcome to stay here," he said finally. "You don't have to leave today, or tomorrow." Olivia opened her mouth to argue, to protect him from her troubles, but exhaustion and fear tugged at her. "I can work," she said. "I can pay my way." "I don't doubt you can," he said. "But you and the baby need rest first." She nodded, grateful in ways she couldn't express. The day passed quietly. Olivia helped in the kitchen, washed dishes, played with Emma on a blanket near the fire, and tried to ignore the way her heart fluttered when Preston entered the room. That evening, after dinner, Preston approached her by the fireplace. "Mrs. Winters," he said gently, "I have another question, one I don't like asking." She hesitated. "What is it?" Quote, "Is there any chance your husband might come looking for you?" She shook her head immediately. "No. He made it very clear he was done with us." A shadow lifted from Preston's eyes. "Good?" His voice held relief. He didn't quite hide. "You should get some rest," he added. "Emma, too." "Thank you," Olivia said, barely above a whisper. "For what?" "For everything." He looked at her for a long moment, then tipped his hat. "Good night, Mrs. Winters." But it wasn't just kindness in his eyes. There was something else, something deeper. The next few days passed in a gentle rhythm Olivia didn't know she needed. She helped Mrs. Norwood with chores. Preston taught her things about the ranch, how they rotated pastures, the responsibilities of the hands, the cattle count for the season. Emma grew stronger each day, her fever gone, her giggles returning. One afternoon, Preston carried Emma around the house while Olivia worked on organizing messy stacks of ledgers he admitted he'd been avoiding for months. "You're good at this," he said, watching her sort the numbers. "I enjoy it," she admitted. "My father taught me bookkeeping before he died." "Well, then I owe him thanks," Preston replied softly. "You've already made more sense of these books than I have in a year." She smiled at the compliment, warmth fluttering in her chest, but the peace did not last. 2 weeks after she arrived, a ranch hand rushed into the office. "Preston! Trouble at the north pasture." Blackwell's cattle broke through the fence again. Olivia saw Preston's expression harden in a way she'd never seen. "Blackwell?" she asked when the hand left. "Neighbor to the north," Preston said. "Likes pushing boundaries. Wants my water rights." "Has he caused trouble before?" "Plenty." Worry twisted in Olivia's stomach. "Is it dangerous?" "I'll handle it," Preston said simply. "Stay close to the house until I get back." He mounted his horse and rode out, leaving Olivia staring after him with a tight chest. Hours passed. Long, silent hours. Night fell. Still no sign of him. Unable to sit still, Olivia went downstairs, pacing softly. The fire had burned low and the front door finally opened. Preston stepped inside, soaked in sweat and dust, his face drawn. "You're still awake," he said. "I was worried," Olivia admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. He removed his hat and set it on the table. "Fences fixed. His cattle are back where they belong. For now." "Did he threaten you?" she asked quietly. Preston hesitated. He talked. He always talks. But some men say things they're willing to act on. Olivia felt a cold ripple down her spine. Preston rubbed a hand over his face. "Enough of that. I'm glad you were here when I came back." Her breath hitched. "Why?" "Because it's good." His voice softened. "Knowing someone's waiting for me." The room fell quiet. The fire snapped. Olivia's heart thumped. Preston Reed, the quiet cowboy who lifted her out of the storm, was letting her see something raw, something honest, something she wasn't sure she could handle. Not yet. Not with a heart still healing. But she didn't look away. Not this time. "Get some rest," he murmured. "We'll talk more tomorrow." Olivia nodded, but as she climbed the stairs that night with Emma sleeping in her arms, she knew one thing for certain. Something between them had changed. Forever. How could someone feel so safe and so uncertain at the same time? That question circled in Olivia's mind the next morning as she watched Preston saddle 2 horses in the bright Montana sunlight. He had asked her to join him for a ride, saying there was something he wanted her to see. She agreed, though her heart thumped like it hadn't settled since last night. Emma stayed with Mrs. Norwood, giggling as the older woman fussed over her. That little laugh alone reminded Olivia why she needed to be careful. Emma was her whole world. She couldn't make another mistake. She couldn't trust too easily again. Yet when Preston helped her mount the gentle mare, his hands steady and respectful, she felt herself wanting to trust him anyway. They rode through rolling hills and stands of tall aspen trees. Olivia could feel the quiet calm of the land settling into her bones. Preston rode beside her, glancing her way now and then, but never pushing conversation. Finally, he slowed his horse and guided her into a hidden meadow. Olivia gasped. A clear blue lake sat in the center, perfectly still, reflecting the sky and mountains like a polished mirror. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "My father brought my mother here when he proposed," Preston said softly. "He called it heaven's mirror. I come here when I need to think." Olivia slid down from the saddle with his help. They walked slowly along the water's edge, their shadows stretching across the grass. After a long silence, Preston stopped. "Olivia," he said quietly, "I've been thinking a lot these past weeks." Her heart thudded. "You've worked hard since the moment you arrived. You've helped with the house, you've taken care of Emma, you've fixed my ledgers, and—" his voice dipped. "You've brought something into this home I didn't know I missed." She swallowed. "What's that?" "Life," he said simply. "Warmth, laughter, someone to talk to at the end of the day." Her breath stilled. "I want to make you an offer," he continued. "I'd like you to stay here. Not for a day or a week. Not until you find somewhere else. I want you to stay for good. As the Diamond R's manager, with your own salary, your own savings, your independence." It was everything she needed and everything she was afraid to accept. "Preston," she whispered, "why me?" He looked at the lake instead of her. "Because I trust you," he said. "Because Emma smiles at me like she knows something I don't. Because the house feels empty when you're not in it." Her heart squeezed tight. "Emma needs stability," he added. "You do too, and I can give you that. If you want it." Olivia took a long breath. She stared at the lake, at her reflection beside his. Everything in her wanted to believe him. To believe this place could be a home. To believe him. "I have conditions," she said firmly. Preston nodded. "Name them." "First, I need my independence, my own money, my own choices." "Done." "Second, I want to learn everything about the ranch, not just the books." "I'll teach you." Quote. "Third," she hesitated, "I need to know Emma and I are truly welcome, not pitied." Preston faced her fully now, his eyes steady and warm. "You are not here out of pity," he said. "You and Emma are here because I want you here." Her breath hitched. "And—" she looked down. "Mrs. Norwood hinted that your feelings might be more than kindness." Preston's jaw tensed. She shouldn't have said that. But is she wrong? He was silent for a long moment, then, gently, "No, she's not wrong." Her pulse jumped. "But," he added softly, "that has nothing to do with my offer. You don't owe me anything. If all you want is work and a safe place to raise Emma, that's enough for me." The honesty in his eyes broke something open inside her. "Then yes," Olivia whispered. "I'll stay." Relief washed across Preston's face so clearly she felt it like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Thank you," he said softly. "You won't regret it." The next weeks fell into a bright and busy rhythm. Olivia learned everything she could, about cattle, about grazing patterns, about the ranch hands' duties. She organized the accounts so neatly that even the bank praised Preston for his improved records. Emma thrived. She crawled everywhere, laughed constantly, and had the ranch hands wrapped around her tiny fingers. But one thing changed most of all. Preston. He became gentler, warmer. He joined them for meals, shared quiet conversations by the fire, and sometimes held Emma until she fell asleep. The house no longer felt like a stranger's place. It felt like home. One evening, after they put Emma to bed, Preston set a chessboard on the table. "Do you play?" he asked. "My father taught me." They played for an hour, teasing each other over mistakes, laughing more than they moved pieces. When she finally checkmated him, Preston leaned back, smiling. "You know," he said, "I haven't played chess with anyone since my father died." "I'm honored." "I'm the honored one," he murmured. Olivia looked away, heat creeping into her cheeks. Feelings grew slowly between them. Soft, careful, real. But she wasn't ready yet. Preston didn't push. Then came the night. Everything changed. Snow fell softly outside as they sat near the fire. Emma was asleep upstairs. Mrs. Norwood retired early. Preston stared at the flames. "Olivia, I've tried hard to respect your boundary. I've tried to stay only your employer, your friend." "You have," she said, "but my feelings haven't changed. They've grown." Her breath caught. "And I need to know," his voice lowered. "Have yours changed too?" Quote. Olivia looked at him, this steady man, this gentle man, this man who had lifted her out of a storm and given her back the pieces of her life. "Yes," she said softly, "they have." Preston took her hand for the first time, warm and sure. "Then may I court you properly?" he asked. Olivia felt tears rise, but these were good tears. "Yes," she whispered, "you may." Spring came early that year. They stood beside the lake called Heaven's Mirror, surrounded by friends and ranch hands. Emma, now walking, toddled down the path, scattering flower petals. And Olivia walked toward Preston Reed, the cowboy who had saved her life, with joy shining in her eyes. Their vows were simple. Their kiss was tender. Their future felt like a sunrise. Years later, with children running across the Diamond R and love deeper than anything she had dreamed, Olivia would always remember the moment everything changed. A storm, a muddy road, a baby in her arms, and a cowboy who stopped when no one else did. He didn't just lift her onto his horse, he lifted her into a new life, a better life, a life where love was real and safe and hers.